Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the C-Suite Cyber Podcast. The C-Suite Cyber Podcast enables C-Suite executives to make security-informed decisions. All right, so today we are joined with Mr. Matt Hopkins, and of course we have my lovely co-host who likes to troll me, Mike Small. What are we getting into today?
We're going to have a fun Intel conversation, the love hate relationship. But we have Matt here who's going to dispel all the myths, all the things that people say are wrong with Intel or whatever. He's going to protect them. He is speaking up for the Intel community today. It's going to be amazing, I think.
So Matt, I'm excited to go through this. It's funny because one of our most watched videos was just us trash talking Intel. So we know it can be done correctly, and that's what we're hoping to get here out of today. But if you don't mind, just take a couple of seconds, introduce yourself, kind of your background. I saw you've done a couple of different roles, like some instant response and other things. So if you don't mind, just tell us who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Hopkins. A little bit about me. I did the military thing. I was in the National Guard for a little while. Did artillery and transportation. Got out of that when I was doing government contracting. A little bit of that in New Jersey. I always felt like I wanted to be in cyber, so I was like, we gotta make the jump now. And so I started applying to a bunch of different places. No one would call me back. And then just one random day, somebody was like, "Hey, are you interested in this position?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." Interviewed. Uh, Took a really brave hiring manager to give me a shot, and I did it. I've been doing it ever since for the last 9 years. Started off in incident response. I loved it. It was lot to learn. Really trying to learn like the technical aspects of security, learning how things go together. And it was really fun. And then I moved over and started doing a little bit of the vulnerability scanning. And I think that's where I kind of learned that security isn't just about security. It's about you're protecting the business, right? And because there's always business reasons for not, we can't patch this because if we do that, we'll stop making money. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I understand that security isn't just security, right? It's protecting the business that's there to make money. So that was a really good thing for me to learn coming from an IR as a young IR analyst and just thinking like, why can't we just fix all this stuff and just will stop? But nah, there's a reason why. So then I went back to incident response, loved it. Then moved up a little bit, become a senior IR analyst, and then I made the move to Intel. I'd always wanted to do the Intel thing. I always thought that the human aspect, at least it's human right now, right, of cybersecurity was really interesting. So that's how I ended up in doing Intel. And I think that because I have an IR background, I bring a different twist to it that I think is probably more useful in general. At least in my mind, it is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, what would you say has been the biggest difference between like going from Army to instant response into Intel? Like, did you have a newfound appreciation for Intel when you were in the military?
That's a good question. I think the biggest, like the hardest part for me, I think was just going into a corporate environment, right? And I think that the personalities are a lot different that you might get in, an artillery unit versus in a corporate, cybersecurity team. And so like that was the hardest part. Uh, I think working with people, um, it's always a good skill set, and I think the military helps you with like being a team player, learning how to identify a gap in a process, and then just putting yourself in there. So I think it really helped me out, like having that military background. I think that maybe a little bit too much of cyber intelligence is takes too much from the military intelligence, right? I think that sometimes the attribution piece we spend too much time on that as an industry, right? It's really important from military perspectives, but maybe not so much for a cybersecurity perspective, depending on your environment and the context. But that's kind of where my thoughts are on that.
So I have a quick question before we change topics. What was that aha moment for you post military that got you into cybersecurity? I think a lot of people love hearing that story. I think we all have one. What was yours?
Uh, I I mean, I remember watching that movie Hackers back in the day, and I always wanted to do it, right? I was just like, this is crazy, this is awesome. And then just like doing like the contracting stuff, it just didn't feel like I was gonna go anywhere with it, right? It wasn't like a long term. I wasn't gonna do this for the next 20, 30 years, right? So I was like, this is the time to make the jump. And then just, I had a job, so it was easy to start applying for a lot of jobs and start listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of videos on YouTube, right? Like I think that's like one of the best things about our community, right? Is it's just like there's tons of content. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to go learn something. Just yeah, log into the internet, get on YouTube, listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks that were really, really important and really helped me understand cybersecurity. So I don't know if there's like one particular moment. I think it was always there. And then I had to just jump and make the change.
Yeah, that's interesting. You and Mike kind of have similar backgrounds because I don't know if you're aware, Mike used to run around in the desert carrying a big old machine gun, and then made a change.
Yeah, I was a grunt, so good times. Even cavemen can do it. Everyone.
Right. Yeah, keyboards are a lot lighter than machine guns.
Yeah.
I tell everyone I get AC, hot food every day. I love my job. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and y'all always talk shit on Air Force, and I don't get it.
Yeah, AJ was Air Force. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wish. I tried to go Air Force one time, and they said, "Nope, we don't like people who've been overseas in combat. We don't want those Army guys over here in the Air Force."
Believe it. All right, so let's get into some questions. We'll bring it back before we go down this rabbit hole. Um, okay, so threat intel programs. Why do you think they tend to fail to create value for the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if we think about cyber threat intelligence as like the journalist of cybersecurity, right? Like the who, what, when, where, and why people, right? I think that a lot of programs they stop there, right? That's just the beginning of a CTI program. It's the so what that you need to nail. And then I think the other thing we forget about from CTI's perspective is that we're storytellers, right? And you have to understand your audience. You have to understand who you're telling the stories to. You need to make it impactful to them in a way that they can digest and understand what the so what is, right? And then also not just the so what, what's next, right? This threat actor is something that we're concerned about based on these TTPs. Like, let's go make a detection out of that, or let's go start a threat hunt about that, or let's go impact some policies about that. And then I think that's kind of where you have to make that transition. You can't just stop at, um, we wrote a report and this is what we think with a high confidence, right? Like someone may or may not read that. If you write it correctly, you understand your audience, it will lead to action, right? You have to how you talk to your C-suite is going to be a lot different than how you talk to a detection engineering team versus incident response team, right? Like those, they have different needs from the information. You're telling the same story, you just got to tell it multiple ways. That's digestible for your customer, your stakeholders, and I think that's where we forget that no one wants to be that transition layer. You want to be able to hand one report to every team and say, get what you need out of this. That's just not how it works, right? Those teams have things to do, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I think Intel needs to, hold that burden of being that translation layer to the stakeholders.
Mike, what are your thoughts there?
So, no, I'm kidding. No, that's fair. I think that's something all of us could work on in cybersecurity in general is that communication piece. You know, there's a tendency for us to get frustrated when people don't understand, hey, this is a risk, but we don't say, so what, to speak to what you're saying. If we don't ever get to that point, we just say, no, this is bad, trust us.
Right.
And if, we all start communicating a little bit better to those key stakeholders, I think all of our jobs would probably be a little bit easier, maybe just a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all busy, right? And you just, if as an Intel team, if you're just handing people more work to do, you got to at least help them prioritize it. Like this might be something that we need to look at right now. This might be something we have to look at in 6 months, right? There's competing, priorities and stuff like that. There's budgets that need to be worked out. Doing security isn't free, right? So you have to help your stakeholders understand the priority of whatever you're trying to tell them. And I think that's another thing we kind of miss out on.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, AJ? Because you hit that question hard.
Yeah, there was
It
some
was the
passion behind that.
it was the first one. Yeah, no, I agree. And you kind of hinted at like the differentiator between tactical intel and just like the typical run-of-the-mill intel, I think, um, where it's driving action, right? Like there's one thing to read a story. Everyone has the internet, right? Everyone can read what's going on X or Twitter or Reddit or etc. But it's another thing to have that context around the environment and the organization and be able to show why they should care, like you mentioned, and derive the impact that way. And I think that's one thing that typically from what I've seen um, is lacking, and that so it becomes like, hey, these people from this place did this thing, and it's like, cool, why do I care, right? Like, do we get targeted by this group? Do we have businesses that have been targeted by them? Like, should we care from a third party management perspective? Like, why do we care? And I think that piece is like you said, telling the story, adding the context to there is the key piece for Intel, in my eyes at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the SAN CTI summit a couple weeks ago, and I kind of felt like the underlying theme was CTI as a function needs to get better, right? Everything we do, whether it's a C-suite level, briefing, all the way down to like a tactical, you know, detections, information to go right detections. Like it has to drive action. Um, and that action doesn't have to be a detection, right? It could be a policy change. It could be uh, even just change the way people are thinking about things, right? Not everything's going to be a massive impact every time, right? You just as long as you can create those relationships and get the good feedback about like this is what I care about, so I don't care about. I think there is a good future for CTI, but it does come down to not just writing reports that no one's reading, right? People will read the reports if there's value in it, and I think that's the thing that we're missing is that we want to write, we want to do the cool Intel analysis thing, but it's got to be for a purpose. And I think that's once we do that as a function, I think we'll start seeing a lot more action happening. And I think that we need to get closer to the teams that we're supporting. All right, get embedded with them a little bit better and understand what their pain points are. And I think once you have those good stakeholder relationships, like Intel just becomes a natural function of good cybersecurity. They're going to want that prioritization, right? They're going to be like, hey, we have 15 patches to apply. Which ones need to be done now, or which ones can wait to the next patching cycle, right? Like they're going to want your intel. They're going to want your feedback if you provide value.
Yeah, I have a question for you to feed off of this, right? So AJ straight up blamed Intel right here, right? No,
What?
no, just kidding. This is a comedy cybersecurity podcast now. How do you feel? So, communications is two-way, right? How do you
Mhm.
feel other teams communicate with Intel teams? Do you think there's a disconnect there at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the chicken or the egg, right? Like who's bad first? uh, like your teams, like I said, they'll come to you if you're providing good intel. If you're providing them actionable stuff, they're going to come to you. Uh, but you have to make sure you commit to doing those stakeholder meetings, right? However, whatever rhythm it is, you have to commit to it. Um, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. And each team, each stakeholder, it may be different, right? Really have to understand that team. They may move slower, some may move quicker. But again, just like the translation layer thing, I think it's on Intel to make sure that the communication is strong. Don't let a long time happen before you've talked to a stakeholder, right? I think that Intel needs to own that.
Yeah, I think that that's the biggest problem we had and I've seen happen is that people will try a couple of times to work with Intel. Like, oh, I think that'd be really cool if they do this. They get a couple of bad interactions, then that's it. They kind of throw their hands up and that's
Right.
it. But I know I've seen, at least in the past few years, maybe 4 years, when I've started working more closely, that just start having those conversations and talk about how we can make whatever this output, this deliverable meet your needs as a team a little bit better, and it becomes a much better relationship. Sometimes they just don't know what you need, and until you have those conversations, they're not going to give you what you need.
Yeah, exactly. I think that happens a lot. You go to a stakeholder and you ask them, what do they want intel around? For them, it's like, you're not giving them any value, so they want everything, right? Give me everything, and then I'll figure out what the value is out of that. So yeah, that's how you may have to start. You may have to start with just a lot of work, and then as you get that feedback, as get on their ear every month or every quarter, whatever it is, hey, what was helpful out of this? What helps you prioritize your work? What helped you, accomplish, whatever metrics you might have? Then you start to dial in what they want, and then that workflow becomes, you actually start reducing the amount of work you have to do for that stakeholder. So yeah, definitely, you got to maintain those relationships and stay in their ear.
That look wasn't for you. Somehow my dog has the zoomies and knocked the door open and came shooting through the room. So I was like, what is going on? I was hoping he didn't hit the camera as he was zooming into the room. So that wasn't that's odd that he said that. No, that was an animal flying through the room, a big Malamute.
Yeah,
Nice.
mine. I had my girlfriend put mine outside because they just started romping downstairs, and all I hear is like them barking at each other. All right, back to
Did, did
back
we
to
say we were
Intel.
professional? We sometimes. Go ahead,
We
AJ.
are. The dogs aren't. No, I think that's a really good point. One thing I want to bring up too, because like I said, I haven't had the best experience with Intel. Now, when I was in the military, so I worked at AFCERT, which is like Air Force's Cyber Emergency Response Team, and we had a NSA liaison. And so, like there, you're getting some really cool intel and some things that you can quickly take action on, which I think is a big difference in corporate, right? Like most things hit the internet if you have like a RSS feed or if you have you're checking the Hacker News or you're checking Twitter's or some other website, right, where people typically post. Like you get it in real time, and so I think that's like a big shift. But how do you how do you use Intel to drive executive decisions? Like, have you been able to influence purchasing? So maybe there was like a campaign that you saw, and you realized that, oh, we can't actually detect this because we're missing this capability or this tooling.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that you need to finish the entire process, right? Because I think maybe a lot of teams don't get to that point where they can identify a gap, and they're not doing any gap analysis after that. It's it might be a lot more like, we saw this incredible threat. Maybe we don't have visibility, and then the work stops. You got to keep on pushing through, right? You have to go understand, well, what's the danger of us not having this visibility? Why don't we have the visibility? You may not have to make a whole lot of purchasing if you have the data. It's just not getting pumped to your SIM yet, right? Or however your architected. It may not be that heavy of a lift. It may just be like, hey, let's just undo this filter right here, and we have the data we need. But you have to go and do that analysis first. You can't just say we're stopping here because we hit the end of the road, and now we're just going to stop and go back and go find something else to work on. It's go all the way through, drive through that, do that gap analysis, understand um, what what you need, right? And understand the risk of not having that visibility, and then you take that to your C-suite, right? Then you explain to them, hey, this is something that's interesting for us. Here's risk, real risk, and we can't detect it, or during a response, we wouldn't be able to find it, uh, and this is why. And if we were able to get this data, boom, and then you go work with the different teams, and you say, actually, we already have the data, or you go do that extra work, right? I think that's where it really comes down to. I don't necessarily think that that's entirely like an Intel function, right? Go
Yeah,
partner with the other teams, right? Go partner with the teams that are going to know that data a lot better than you. Work with your incident response team and stuff like that. Work with the threat hunters in your organization. Work with the red teamers, right? They're going to know things like that. And so just go get that break down the silos and build like a coalition of people who we all have the same goal, right? We just need to connect together and work together. And then I think when you present those things to the C-suite at that point, it's an easier decision, right? It's not, ah, well, I gotta go prioritize 15 other things I need to spend my money on, right? This budget's already getting tanked. Now it's, all right, I have real risk assigned to not spending this money, or let me just go flip a switch and we'll have the data. and we're good, right? So yeah, I think that's the problem in general, is just stopping too early.
So when you're looking at prioritizing, right? So this is, I think, a big problem a lot of organizations have is there's so much going on out there, so many different types of adversaries, so many different threat groups, so many different types of attacks. How or what have you seen in your community as the best way to approach that, to start trying to slim it down and track these issues and prioritize these issues?
Yeah, I think the if you try to digest everything, you're going to drown. You have to start with the priority intelligence requirements, right? You need to understand what your stakeholders want to know about, and then also keep track of emerging things, right? I think when you do that, you're going to be in a good place. It'll help you prioritize intelligence that you need to bring in, because your stakeholders already told you we care about these 5 things. All right, we don't care about the other ones. So that's how, as an intel function, you can really hone in and understand, like, this is the type of intelligence we need to be consuming every day. This is what we need to go look through, and it helps you develop your collection plan, right? So instead of just getting more and more intel into however you're digesting it, maybe you don't need any more intel. Maybe there's enough work to do with what you have, and so I would say starting with PIRs is the best place to start, and then going from there.
Can you define PIR for folks?
Yeah, it's a priority intelligence requirement. The best way to think about it is just it's the questions that your stakeholders are asking about, right? Uh, I want to know about vulnerabilities that are impacting, our products, whatever it is, right? So stuff like that. I want to know about threat actors in this location in this country because we have operations there. So once you have those defined, and you only get those right through doing those stakeholder interviews and having those conversations. Once you have those defined, your scope becomes a lot slimmer. It's a lot easier to handle at that point.
So is that what you would recommend other Intel groups doing? Have those conversations, try to identify what the priorities are of whatever organization you're working within to start narrowing down that scope, and then that's where they should start before they do anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's Intel 471. Like they have a handbook for how to do this, right? They have a spreadsheet. They have sample PIRs. They help you develop a collection plan. Like that's where I would start. If I was starting all over, I'd just go grab this. You sign up for it. They'll send you a download link, and you just go from there, right? It's really they've made it really easy to go through the process. Like I said, they have sample PIRs. They even have sample like interview templates. Yeah, set up the meetings. Go talk to your stakeholders. Get a good understanding what's keeping them up at night, and then you know help yourself develop those into PIRs. That'll directly impact your collection plan. And then when you need some money, hey, you wanted to know about this. I can't tell you about this because we don't have the right intelligence. So we need a feed or something, right? Again, right? You got to tell the whole story. You can't just stop. So it's really concrete when a stakeholder says, I want to know about these 5 things, and you literally can't tell them about it because you don't have the proper intelligence to do that. That's when you can get some money.
And that was SANS 471 for people.
Intel
Oh, Intel
471.
471.
Oh, that's a site, or what is Intel 4? I don't know.
It's a company.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
company.
they have a I can't remember what it's called.
So
It's something
detached here.
underground, something underground handbook. Uh, yeah, it's a PDF. It's great. It comes with like I think it's a zip. It has some Excel spreadsheets in there, and literally you start plugging it in, and it helps you prioritize uh, your PIRs based on overlap. So maybe you have like 5 stakeholders, and then you say you stakeholder 1 is the highest priority, and stakeholder 5 is the lowest priority. It like even has like a little bit of math in there to help you say, well, these 3 stakeholders all agreed on this one PIR. Let's bump it up. So it even helps you prioritize the PIRs you have. It's a pretty good free tool they released.
I'll check it out. I'm sure AJ would troll me out of existence now because I didn't know this thing. He's over here giggling. Look at him. He's still laughing about
It's fine, man. Just don't say that we're in the same world anymore.
it.
I think that's a really good point. So, like you mentioned the free resource. What do you recommend for enterprises or organizations that might not be mature enough to have like a dedicated threat intel team? Should they be spending money on feeds? Should they like have some kind of crawler? What do you recommend?
Oh man, if I was starting a team with zero budget, maybe not even with people. I would go with OSINT first, and then I think the important part isn't so much the intel, because like we talked about, like even the commercial feeds, right? Those are they're old, right? Those things have been vetted, they've been aggregated across many customers. By the time you get it, it's already a month, 2 months old. Um, the OSINT stuff, it's gonna be old too, but it's free, right? So the important piece is to build the processes. That's way more important than paying for intelligence. It's do you have you can have all the paid intel you can possibly ever want and not have PIRs, right? That's not going to help you out. You're not going to have a collection plan. You're just going to be buying stuff randomly, getting RSS feeds randomly. You're not going to be able to do any analysis. So yeah, I wouldn't. I would stay with OSINT. I would just use some free stuff, RSS tools, to aggregate it. I would look at different products that maybe fit in the budget, a little bit lower priced. But yeah, that's kind of where I would start. I wouldn't feel the pressure to go buy Intel. Get to OSINT stuff, learn how to turn it into action. Then the money will come, right? And I think that a lot of companies don't have cyber threat intelligence because they don't understand the value it can bring. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that that's an opportunity for CTI as a function to kind of show where that value can be, right? So if you're writing detections, like what are you writing them on, right? Like how do you decide that without intelligence or at least understanding, some risk, having some kind of way to understand risk, uh, and that's where I think like CTI can really help out. And that's really where I think like you don't necessarily need a team, but those people, it needs to be like a function inside of teams. It needs to be someone, or at least a cultural thing that people are like, okay, we're going to go understand our threat landscape, and we're going to understand how those things impact our environment. And then that's where we're going to go and start understanding like how do we prioritize detections or policies or even like disaster recovery, stuff like that. So yeah, I think I answered the question. I might have
Yeah.
got a little sidetracked.
No, you're good. And just for the people who might be unaware, can you explain OSINT?
Yeah, open source intel, right? That's the stuff we were talking about earlier. It's on Twitter. It's happening right now, right? Some of it might be a little bit older. Some of it might be Hacker News. It's just all the open source stuff you can go pull from. Uh, yeah, RSS feeds are really good at bringing that in. Uh, there's some good tools. I'm not going to plug any vendors, but there's some good ones out there that I would fight for to get it into my stack if I was really pressed. Um, yeah, it just you can get a lot of good stuff out there for free, right? Just from the feeds that are out there. Um, may not be like the first source, but it might not be a primary source, but you'll get the gist. You get what you need out of it.
Yeah. I think it's important to highlight too, like you have CloudBot, Moltbot recently, and all of that stuff. You have Notepad++, like exploiting a vulnerability from 2012 or something, like something crazy, with the new loader thing. And it's like, this is all public, it's all free. Like you can learn from these things. And like you mentioned, you don't have to, pay a commercial Intel vendor to get access to this. Um, Mentioning tools, I do want to kind of pivot a little bit. So I don't know if it was like the first post of yours that I saw or whatnot, but when I found you on LinkedIn, you were talking about a MCP server, so a Cyber Threat Intelligence MCP's Model Context Protocol server that you had built. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll do a little bit more background around it. I had a post earlier in the year just talking about how I could see AI accelerating uh, threat actor activity, and I wasn't necessarily concerned about the big guys, right? The big companies, they're going to weather the storm, at least initially. My concern was the smaller companies that, like to your point, don't have a CTI function, right? They don't write their own detections. They're really dependent upon like their stack if they have one, but they're in our supply chains, right? And so we can see how recently that the attacks are going that way, right? If I can attack one company, compromise one company, get access to 10, 20, 30, 40, then why not, right? And so that's what I was thinking about. And then someone I was at a conference and she had said it was the cyber poverty line, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting to frame it that way, right? There's some companies that do not have the budget, do not have the money to properly invest, but they are in all of our supply chains. So that's why I wanted to make the MCP server. So get into that. I originally thought that I was like, okay, if we can throw an MCP server on an OpenCTI, right, an open source threat intel platform, then everyone could do CTI. Everyone could have it, right? It's how much is an enterprise license for Claude? It's $20 a month, I think. You could buy 2 or 3 of those. It's not a big problem. That's pretty doable. Plus the cost of operating the OpenCTI, like you need host it in the cloud or put it on a server. I was like, we can do this. So that was like the pushing point for me to do the MCP server. And then Anthropic also started giving away tokens, right? I can't remember how much money it was. I think it was $1,000 of free tokens. I was like, there's no point in not doing it. So I fired up Claude Code. I took some information from Census, right? They had made an MCP server and incorporated templates into it, so that you kind of got some consistency out of the product. And I was like, okay, like we're gonna steal that idea. And I spent a couple hours just like iterating through the prompt before I gave it to Claude Code. And I said, all right, let's go build this thing. And it took maybe 20 minutes and maybe $1 in tokens. And it had like the first version. And I fired it up and it worked. It wasn't great, but it worked. And I was like, wow, all right, we're on to something. So then I started iterating through the MCP server. And it dawned on me, right? Like I was like, it can't be this easy. The thing is the MCP server is just plumbing, right? It's just moving data between 2 pieces. It's not doing anything. The LLM is doing all the work. And so that's why I was like, wow, like that to me, like that was like an aha moment. It seems kind of obvious now, right? But just realizing that the MCP server is literally just plumbing, connecting 2 pieces together, like that's why it was easy, right? And then as I went through it, understood what I could do with the MCP server, it was like, let's add new features, right? So like one of the things I really liked was you need context, right? You can't just take Intel, feed it to LLM and say, write me a report. I mean, you can, but it's being really generic, right? And so the templates that the idea that I took from Census, I was like, all right, well, let me give the LLM some context about my company, right? The fake company I created for it. And they give it some fake information about a possible security stack for a company. So now when I ask it questions, that data gets loaded into the LLM as memory, right? Into the memory. And so when it's evaluating the intel, it's doing it in the context of my fake company, and not just the fake company, but the security stack that we have at the company, right? So Cooper Cyber Coffee is using Microsoft 365, right? So that's just what I told Claude to do, right? And so it's given me really good intel, this actionable, hey, you can go put this in, you can go hunt for this right now, right? And it's because of the added context, which really made it, I think, way more useful than I really anticipated originally.
Nice. What is the type of data, like the output that it gives you?
It depends on the question, right? I can ask it, hey, I need a this wasn't planned. It was I was just putting data in from Alien Vault into my OpenCTI instance, and I just asked Claude. I said, go review like the last 10 days of intel and give me an executive brief, on the stuff that's relevant to my org. And it went through there, and it started pulling out intel around threat actors that are operating in South America, right? Where the beans would be from. I didn't have to tell it that. I didn't even think about it. So it was like, here, this is what's going on. This could be an issue for your suppliers. Action, it said, go reach out to your suppliers and talk to them about this. Or, it'll write out detections, right? Based on the intelligence and the fake security stack I told it that I was using, right? And it'll tell me, hey, go throw this in Sentinel or whatever. It comes up with threat hunts ideas, like some hypothesis. Had it spit out a pretty thorough IR playbook. It was like 20 some pages, I think. So it's pretty good. It'll give you like whatever you need. Like, and I think like people may not be in CTI. Like, I don't know many CTI teams that are actually pushing IR playbooks. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Um, but when you go have that talk with your incident response stakeholder, hey, here's some intel. Oh, by the way, here's the playbook for it. Like, you guys should review it, make sure it falls in line with your best practices and whatnot. And uh, but that's a real conversation you can have, right? That's something that's real value that they can't just walk away from. Um, so yeah, and then you can really customize it. I wanted it to be flexible with the different templates. So I pulled those out of the code and just made them all like uh, just they're just like MD files, right? There's text files, so you can type whatever you want in there. But whenever you ask a question, it'll pick the appropriate tool, right? And then it'll pull the template for that tool to give you the output you kind of want. So it's I really hope that people will spend the time to customize like the threat hunting template. Push your stuff in there, and then it'll be more custom to the user.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I was like thinking through it as you were talking. So I run a global SOC, so I have detection under me as well. So it's kind of interesting. I was like, how could we use something like that with our Intel folks? Like, there is a lot of context that's missed on the way from Intel to these teams. So I think maybe some of the playbooks or playbook-like stuff could help provide the context of the activities that they're maybe detecting on or whatever. Would definitely make their lives a little bit easier, I'm sure, and even the analysts who kind of get the final output, which are the alerts coming from the detections that were made from the intel that was gathered from these other people. So kind of helping with all of that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the playbook that it spit out. I think I still have it. If not, I'll have it create a new one and I'll send it to you guys. You gotta check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that is awesome. One of the questions I was going to ask you, and now I guess it's still fair, but it's still kind of funny. I was going to say, what percentage of your life is copying and pasting stuff? Because we used to make that joke of like, oh, Intel's just copying from this report and then making a newsletter or a daily thing or whatever. Um, but now it's just one. You just have it do it, one post.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is with MCP, right? I can have it right to the host computer, so I don't have to copy and paste anymore, right? But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of historically, CTI teams have been a lot of copying and pasting, but as you invest in automations and different type of tools, you can get past that and kind of really like let the analysts go do like what they're good at, as opposed to copying and pasting. That's computer work.
Yeah. What kind of ideas have you thought about in terms of improving on those capabilities of your tool there? Have you thought about things that you're going to work on and add to it?
Yeah, so I haven't finished it yet. The big thing I'm working on now is improving its ability to write detections. And so again, it's a context thing. And so I created a fake output from Splunk that lists all the indexes, sources, and different field types. Um, I'm going to give that to the MCP server. So not only will it understand that, hey, I have this security stack, it's going to actually understand exactly what fields you have in your SIM. And when you ask it to write a detection, the goal is it'll write it for what you have, or it'll recommend that, hey, you probably can't write a good detections for this because you don't have the right stuff, right? So that's one of the things I'm working on right now. I hope to be done with that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Another thing I want to do is start integrating some of the MITRE tools, right? Like the Navigator. Right now, it won't take the TTPs from a report and export it out as a pretty decent file. I want to add that tool to the MCP server, so you could ask a question like, "Hey, I'm interested in all the intel from South America. Write create a Navigator layer that has all the TTPs highlighted, and then get that out, right? And then you take that and compare to other things, and you can do stuff with that. Another thing I want to do is the MITRE has like I can't remember what it's called. Basically, they have the attack visualization, right? And that's another thing I want to add to it is, hey, not only do I want you to write a detection or something, but like also produce the visual how that attack progresses, right? And all that stuff, MITRE had already released. So it's just me creating new tools to integrate those things into the MCP server, which I think will give people a lot more functionality out of it.
I've seen some kind of diagrams like that where they connected on the miter, and that was pretty useful.
Hmm.
Back when I did purple teaming stuff, that was kind of, I would say, one of the most challenging thing to get was converting the intel. So we'd work with Intel to say, hey, give us some potential attack paths, full kind of attack chain itself. And then some of them wouldn't quite make sense, right? It didn't make sense just with the way, and it could never be done in that way. But having like some assistance with that, with all that data, with the stack, and it could give you a more plausible attack chain given the environment you're working within. So I could definitely see that. And then your operators could take that and start toiling away and building stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when people see it visually, it makes a lot more sense, right? It's not just random abstract words. You can see how an attacker would progress through their attack, and then also helps you understand more about understanding where your strengths are on that attack path, right? Hey, we don't have visibility at point one, but we have really good visibility at point four, right? Let that, like, that's where we're going to beat the bad guy, right? I think like cybersecurity, we have like that adage, right? The defender has to be right every time, and the attacker has to be right once. I think that's wrong. I think if you think of the whole entire attack path, the defender has to be right every time. Every time maybe the attack path is 7 steps long, right? You only have to block them one time. You only have to stop them one time. And so I think that's where the advantage is from on the defensive side. Look at the attack path, understand that attack path, and then dig in where you're strongest. And then I think you find more success. So yeah, I do really think that the visualization helps out a lot. So I'm really looking forward to that. It helps people understand it better. I mean, I like doing it, but it takes a long time. It takes a long time to read several reports, and then I normally write them out in hand with my hand first, like, a little pen and paper, and then I'll use the tool that MITRE has. It's a web app, and then you start drawing it on there, connecting the dots, and start typing in the TTP numbers and giving a little description. It takes a while, and so being able to use AI to do that it'd be awesome. Like every time we do a report or something, like if the visualization makes sense, like let's throw it in there. Like that's kind of like where, again, you go find that value, and everyone I've talked to sees value in those visualizations.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's called attack flow. At least that's what I
Yes,
pulled up.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
it's a
you
good tool.
can probably, I don't know what the structure is, but it's probably like a JSON or something,
Yeah,
or
it
you
is.
could feed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Um,
my intent to do is what it would the the LLM would just spit out basically like that file, and then you just
mhm.
go spin up like the web app, or you can host it locally if you want, and you load that file in. I don't want to get too crazy with trying to create the visualization inside of the LLM. Like, well, it's just better to take that file, let it build out the file, and then you go upload it somewhere. Same thing with the navigator layer. Just do the same thing. Just create the actual file. You go upload it to that web app, and then you can see it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Better than spending hours trying to get that functionality to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what I do in my thing, and host the navigator as like a embedded frame. Um, so I don't have to sit there and let it like refresh every time I add something new to it. It
Nice.
works well.
Yeah,
Do
I
you?
like
Uh,
the navigator. I like being able to like add them like different layers together. Like that's really helpful.
It'd be interesting too if, and I'm just spitballing here, um, but if you have the navigator and then you make the attack flow, and then you can color coordinate the attack flow based off of your strengths,
Wow.
like you were mentioning. So you could say like, oh, here we have a choke point. Like we have all the telemetry, we have detections around this, or these list of attacks based off of these detections that we have, and so like we know if we were to see this based off of current reporting, that we would be able to identify and prevent or isolate or whatever it might be there.
Yeah, that's really good idea.
Yeah, because I was thinking about kind of how I used to do it, and we could definitely use something like this to help where for the purple team, we would always pick a path where there weren't any choke points, where it was just we knew analysts would struggle because it was always designed to give reps to the analysts that were trying to understand the environment, understand how the attacks may
Right.
flow through the environment. So like I'm sure it'd be pretty easy to like identify gaps or like be able to feed it a list of gaps and build the path based off of that, and then your operator would take that and design an exercise around that.
Yeah, it's also more difficult because like you're going to abuse permissions, right? You're going to abuse an account. Someone's going to get compromised, whatever it might be. So it's likely going to look legitimate, and it's whether or not they're able to piece everything together to identify that it is malicious. Um, that'd be a cool thing. We should add that for our stuff.
I was going to ask as well, since you're doing a lot with Claude, AJ here does some vibe coding and some assistance with AI. Do you have any tips for him to help him out? Because he actually sucks as a dev normally.
What?
And so this is what's allowing him to actually write code. Otherwise, he'd be hamstrung and it'd still just be 5 lines of code. So, do you have any tips for someone like AJ?
Yeah, I'm the exact same way, right? I've always like tried to get good at like writing Python, and so I was like, Googling stuff, piecing it together, and then you get LLMs that can actually spit it out a lot quicker. So what I started doing is I started taking like the documentation from whatever solution I'm trying to build, right? Maybe I'm trying to integrate an API. So I'll go grab the API documentation and give it to Claude and say, here's what I'm trying to do. You have the documentation, so go figure it out, and it does it really well. For me, for the vibe coding thing, uh, I think spend a lot of time on the prompts. Understand that, and also understand you're not gonna build everything with one prompt. So like I made a SaaS platform or something else, and I got about halfway done with it, and I started all over because there's the things that I was wanting to add in afterwards, and I was like, nah, this isn't gonna work. Like I wanted to add MFA, and that was a pain. Oh my goodness. And I was like, all right, we're starting all over, and I did. So I think my advice to anyone who's using any LLMs or for any reason is just spend a lot of time on the prompt. And I like to use the LLM to help me build the better prompt. And I always like in my project instructions, I tell the LLM to red team me basically. Like don't don't accept anything I say without pushing back. I tell it to push back on me because I want that. You have to understand like where your strengths are, right, and where they're not. And so the LLM is really good at telling you where you might have a weakness. And so, I'll come up with a plan for something I want to put together, and I'll iterate with Claude a lot before I even stick anything in Claude code to actually work on the MCP server. Really just thinking about uh, is it the right decision, right? How's the best way to integrate it? I think one of the things like I kind of learned from doing this. Yeah, I can't make everyone an Intel analyst for $20 a month, but what I can do is help good Intel analysts become really good, and that's where I really understood that the LLMs unlock domain expertise. If you're good at something, you're going to be really good at it. With using an LLM, it's like giving someone a sword. If you can't lift it up, it doesn't matter how good of a sword it is, right? Like, but if you're big and strong, you know how to swing that thing. Like then now you're dangerous, and so yeah, spend time on understanding where the weaknesses are in your own perspective and stuff like that, I think is the big key. And yeah, spend a lot of time on the prompt before you start going, especially if you're building something big like a platform. Like, yeah, spend time on the prompt. And think about it, right? If you're going to be like building the software and you're not a software dev, like, okay, then you may need to do some research first. Is there going to be a database in the background? How good are you running databases, right? How good are you securing the connection between the two? So like there's a lot of stuff that goes into all of these things that I think that people just sort of say, well, the LLM's going to figure it out. It's not. It's not going to figure it out. At least not at first. You're going to iterate through it for a long time. So do you want to do the work up front, or you want to do it and pull your hair out and start all over like I did, right? I advise to do the work up front.
Yeah, I also restarted my project a few times. I started initially I didn't have Claude. I just had ChatGPT. So I was copy pasting TypeScript
Hmm.
files into my folder and then running Node to spin it up and for probably a month and a half, just doing it that way. Now I exclusively use Claude Code for developing and stuff.
Yeah,
I would
I
say
love it. It's
too,
great.
one of the things that I get a lot of value out of that I don't think enough people do. So for context, by the way, Mike is throwing a ton of shade. I'm testing LLMs and doing other stuff, like automating our processes and whatnot at my employer, as well as developing externally. But one of the things that I don't think a lot of people do is just like they'll throw stuff at the prompt, right? If I'm doing a larger project, so earlier I was integrating something that someone else had developed into my larger encompassing project, and I always ask clarifying questions. Like if you don't know, don't assume, ask me to clarify it for you. And some of the questions, I addressed most of them by like telling it to compare first in plan mode and whatnot. But some of them were like, do you want me to use this folder or do you want to create a new folder? Something as simple as that. Just so that like you're getting what you want, not necessarily what you asked for. And I think that's a big thing in general, right? Is like give the people what they need, not what they're asking for. Mike doesn't even know how to code anymore, so I don't care. Didn't hurt my feelings at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I barely touch a keyboard unless I'm typing up a slideshow now. So, it is what it is.
with the use of LLMs and AI, what do you think the future of CTI is?
That's a great question. I think good CTI will get better, and I think that bad CTI will get replaced. Um, using these tools, you can do deeper analysis, right? Like when you start understanding what the LMs are good at, right? Pattern recognition and doing stuff like that, then you can get a lot deeper in your analysis. You can look at larger data sets than you may have from a human perspective, right? Like you want to get like a really complicated question answered. I mean, how long is it going to take a human to do that? It's going to take, how many reports they're going to have to read uh, and start extracting all that data. Well, you could use the LLM to pull it out much quicker. And then I see the value from the human is gut check it. Does that feel right? And then go verify it, right? And then and go down that path. Um, have someone else look at it as well. But I think that it's going to evolve. It's going to have to evolve. I think all aspects of cybersecurity are going to have to evolve. And I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing, right? Like jobs will change. I think that maybe next year, or the year after that, we're going to see I think more hiring happening. I think people will one of two things is going to happen. One, companies are saving so much money from AI, the drop in the cost that now they have more money to start investing in new businesses or investing in expanding their business, and they're going to need more people. Or AI is going to be so bad, they're going to want the people back. So I think we're about a year or two away from a big hiring spike. Um, I'm excited where AI can take CTI in general. Just I think it can help with that translation layer a lot quicker than I think people can. Right? I could take a piece of intelligence, give it to an LLM, and pull out a detection. Right? It's not a detection I would go throw in a SIM, but it's a good enough detection I could give to a detection engineer. Right? So you still need the people. It's going to get you through it's compress some of the work that maybe is less valuable or takes too long. And I think that there's a good opportunity for CTI to become more useful, more impactful.
Yeah, same. I know we're almost up at time. I want one more quick question I had for you. So, sometimes we see kind of the classic CTI roles out there. Sometimes we see fusion teams that are a mix of CTI with other more, I don't want to say more technical roles because CTI is technical too, but you know what I mean, more hands-on-y, more classical blue team or red team. Do you feel any type of way about those fusion? Do you think it kind of enhances the output from CTI, or do you still like the traditional CTI approach and just have working groups and just have better relationships there?
Yeah, I think it depends on the organization, right? I want to stay focused on the outcome, right? Like you want that data, like that information to spread to other teams and be actionable. How you get there doesn't really matter as long as it works for the people you have. Having an incident response background, I think, does help me talk to incident responders better, right? I remember the pain, and so that also helps me talk to people who are doing threat hunting. So I do get like those type of roles, but I don't I don't have to have had incident response background to help incident responders, right? So it just I think it just depends on the team. As long as you're focused on the outcome as opposed to just saying things for the sake of saying things, right? Like Intel, when it's just reports for report's sake, isn't useful, no matter who the person is, right? Whether they're reverse engineering stuff or they're not. So it just yeah, I think it just depends on the company, the people, and just focusing on the outcomes. You could do it either way.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer, Bob. All right, AJ, what do you got? You got anything left on that list of yours?
Um, yeah. What do you think leaders should change to improve, I guess, the overall security posture, but specifically to threat intel?
What can leaders do to improve CTI? Um, I think that the best thing that the C-suite can do is ask questions and provide feedback. I think those are the two things, right? Ask questions, because if you're coming to me and you're asking me something, I know that's what you want to know about. You're thinking about that. All right, cool. You already gave me some info. You just gave me feedback. But when I give you the product, I need you to tell me what hit and what didn't, what landed, what didn't, right? And then we can get that relationship better, and I'll understand more what the leadership wants. And I think that's across the board. That's how you get a good CTI team, is you have that two-way conversation, and leadership can definitely take the time, right? Um, there's a lot of good work that can come out of a CTI team, right? And it can help leadership understand, what the future is going to look like. Also understand, how does this apply to our supply chain? How does this apply to regulation, right? And kind of help give like a total picture. And so, but that all requires back and forth communication. So the one thing I would say is just commit time. Commit time, sit down with your CTI team and have those conversations. Don't put them on the back burner and then be mad a year from now when, why didn't you tell me about this? Oh, we never talked, right? So yeah, commit the time. That's the one thing. That's my one piece of advice.
So what I'm hearing today is communication is key. And what's funny
Yes.
though, like it's hilarious kind of to us, but like as a manager now, that has probably been the biggest thing. Is like, have you talked to that person? Have you talked to that person? Why don't y'all pull up? Why don't y'all talk about it? Like, and then it's like, oh, these problems are starting to go away. Oh, I wonder.
Right.
Like, what the heck? Like the easiest thing, just talk.
Yeah, break down the silos, grab coffee, talk to each other. You get that more brain power on the problem. They start getting easy to solve.
Agreed. Cool. Well, I don't want to go too far over the time. AJ, do you want to wrap us up so we don't keep them too long?
Matt, thanks so much for joining us today and discussing threat intel. Um, I think one of the biggest things I took away from this was like that it's not just us that thinks the intel can be missing the mark sometimes, and you hitting on the communication piece needs to go both ways, right? We need to clarify what we're asking for, provide feedback to the intel team who is going out doing the research, doing the reporting, and hopefully providing the context so that actions can be taken, whether that's in operations, maybe that's in the risk profile, third party risk management, or the executive decisions, right, based off of supply chains or whatever that might be. And I really liked that your thought for the future of CTI is good CTI gets better, bad CTI gets replaced. I fully am on board with that, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, the fact that you took the time to make a open CTI MCP server and stuff, is that something that people can access today?
Yeah, definitely. It's on my GitHub, Cooper Cyber Coffee. They can go download it, and I get some feedback from people, and I do appreciate it. Keep it coming. Like, let's make this better. It's something fun to do, and I see some value in it. I think other people are seeing value as well.
Awesome. We'll have that note down in the description as well. And Matt, where can people find you?
LinkedIn is the best place. Just find me on there. Send me a connection request. Let's get a conversation going.
Be sure you tell them that you found them on C-Suite Cyber Podcast. By the way,
Yeah, I will. 100%.
All right, and with that,
I'll give you guys a kickback. Everyone who does that will give you guys a dollar or something.
Sweet, we're gonna get $1.
Wow. Cool.
No. Anything else, Mike?
I think that's it. No, this is fun. I love having these conversations with different specialties. That's why we do them here. People doing cool stuff, different areas that we're not domain experts in whatsoever. This is how we all get better, is having conversations like this. So definitely really appreciate it, truly appreciate it. And keep doing your stuff. I'm definitely going to check it out. And definitely check his stuff out. We'll put all his links in there. And until the next episode, see you later, everyone. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.